Hi, my name's Robin. Today is day 4 of Disney Plus movie reviews. Today I am talking about Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. It's listed as Alice in Wonderland, so it's at the top. This movie came out in 2010. I like it. I've seen it before. It came out when I was in high school, and one of my friends really liked Alice in Wonderland, so I liked it. I hadn't watched it in a while, though, so I was excited to get to see it and see how it compared to what I remembered. So it started, and Alice has a really supportive dad. He seems like a really nice man. And then it jumps forward to they're on the way to Alice's surprise engagement party. And Alice is talking about the dream that she always has that we saw when she was little, and then we see when she's kind of an adult. I guess she is an adult now because she's about to get engaged. And Alice asks if people dream different things normally. And her mom is like, I don't know. Then at the surprise party, Alice is wearing a blue dress because that's what Alice in Wonderland does. And it's a pale blue, but she's got the most color of like anyone there, which is fun. She still stands out even when she's trying to fit in. So as the movie was going at the beginning, I was trying to identify who characters were in Wonderland. So my guesses are Hamish's mom is the Queen of Hearts. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are the twins, which is pretty obvious. Her dad is the Mad Hatter. And then the rabbit, I don't know. The caterpillar, I don't know. Hamish is somebody. Probably, maybe, but like nobody's really in love with her unless he is the Queen of Hearts sheriff guy with the heart eye patch. I just thought of that, which would make sense because if his mom is the Queen of Hearts, he and his mom seem pretty close. So anyway, those are my guesses. So the soundtrack helps the movie move pretty well as Alice goes and moves around. Then she falls down the tunnel. And there's a piano floating in the tunnel. I think that's odd. I don't know who just shoved a piano down there, but who knows. When Alice falls out at the bottom, nothing else falls out with her, which is also weird. So that kind of implies that things were just placed in the tunnel, whereas she fell through, so she kept going. The other stuff was just put there. Weird. So Alice falls down through the tunnel, and then she lands on the floor, which is actually the ceiling. So then the world flips back over, and she falls down onto the floor. So what I don't understand is, 1, where did the hole go? And 2, assuming the hole is still there, which it should be, but not, she could just go back through the hole and fall down, which is up, and then pop out the top and go back, but she did not do that. So then Alice is stuck in a room. She is in her very own personalized escape room. I thought that was really funny. Hopefully you do too. But she's in an escape room. Eventually she escapes. Yay! This is kind of a jumpy summary because I feel like you've seen the movie. So I'm just telling you my highlights. There's that giant fuzzy thing, the bad guy's fuzzy thing that Alice the one that she gets scratched by, and the dormouse takes its eye. And it looks to me like something in a Tinkerbell movie. I don't know if you've watched those. But even if you just look up the cover art, I think it's in one of those, but it's the Bandersnatch. So that's fun. Starts out as a bad guy. Spoiler. It becomes a good guy. I love him. He's cute. Let's see. I don't feel like the perspective comparison sizing, the one size to another is consistent. And I know like Alice is shrinking and growing, so it makes sense when that changes. But at one point, like the mouse is small and stabs Alice's foot, and then she doesn't shrink or grow any, as far as we know. And then she shows up at the tea party, and she's like a similar size to the dormouse. So that's weird. And then she shrinks more and hides in the little teapot. And then the Mad Hatter, Johnny Depp, Edward Scissorhands her a dress. That's funny because he was Edward Scissorhands. So that was pretty cool. Like, as a reference to his past cinematography cinematographic history. Yeah, that's a word. But that was cool. So there are a few quotes from this movie that I wrote down because I really liked them, or they stood out. So the Mad Hatter says to Alice, anyone can travel by carriage, but the absolute best way to travel is by hat. Cool. He's the Mad Hatter. He's into hats. That makes sense. But then he carries her on his shoulder. That's not traveling by hat. He didn't even put her on his hat. Would have made sense. Didn't. So they're traveling. Eventually, he throws her by hat to escape the Queen's men when he kind of sacrifices himself. A nice move. Which goes with the Mad Hatter is her dad deal. So, and then he also says, you were much more muchier. You've lost your muchness. And that's sad. Poor Alice. When the Mad Hatter is talking, he says something about the High Top clan have always been employed by the court. And that's funny because he wears hats. He wears tall hats, high top on his head. So I like that. Then Alice ends up with Bayard, the dog who works for the Queen, but is also against the Queen because who's not? Because she's terrible. So he starts to say, if you diverge from the path, and she says, I make the path. And I was so proud of her. It was such a good moment for her to stand her ground and be like, I'm not that Alice, but I'm going to save the Mad Hatter. That's up to us to do. So that was a nice moment. So when Alice jumps from where she is with Bayard into the Queen's place, she jumps across these giant stones. And I was like, how convenient that there's floating gray stones in that moat. And then I realized that they were heads. They're gray heads because the Queen cuts off people's heads. That was a disturbing moment. I did not enjoy it. It was interesting, but gross. The Hatter refers to Alice as a boy a few times. Like earlier in the movie, he calls her a he. I'm like, okay, he's a little crazy. We all know this. And then he refers to Alice as a wee little boy to the Queen. I don't really have anything to say about that. I just thought it was weird. When Alice is with the Queen of Hearts, she gets multiple dresses. If you can hear that hammering, they're doing construction on the house next door. Alice gets multiple dresses with the Queen of Hearts, which is fun. Their costuming department did really, really well in this movie. Like I should probably look them up to learn more because they were awesome. Alice has a lot of cool dresses and they do really well, I think, when they're transitioning from when she's big to regular size to little and giant and all over the place. They do a really good job of making me believe that these dresses are dresses from Wonderland, dresses that Alice would wear, dresses that have changed sizes or haven't. They just did a really good job. Also, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is between Alice and the Mad Hatter. So, at the beginning of the movie, if you will recall, Alice has the bad dream. She talks to her dad and she's like, have I gone round the bend? Have I gone crazy? And he's like, I'm afraid so, but I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are. And it's super nice. It's because it's funny. Like it's a nice father-daughter engaging moment, and it's letting her know that like she's in good knee and she's not actually crazy and she's doing great. So which brings me back to that scene. The Mad Hatter asks Alice if he's gone crazy, and she's like, I'm afraid so. And he looks sad because she's like, hey, we're crazy. And then she's like, but I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are. And it's sweet because the Mad Hatter's a little confused but also happy. And it's a great moment because it's a flip of when Alice and her dad had that same conversation. So it's like, well, she's learned from her dad, and it's just really nice. I liked it. So then we get to Alice is escaping. And the Mad Hatter fights off the Queen's henchman dude with supplies that he uses to make hats, the form that people make clothing form, and perfume. And that is just sheer talent and maybe a little insanity, but like he rocks it. He's great. Then we see the White Queen. I love the White Queen. I think it's because I love Anne Hathaway. She's pretty cool. So we meet her. She's pretty awesome. But she's being pretty lame by not doing things. And I get that she took a vow and it's against her vows to hurt people. But you can still stand up for yourself without hurting people. The White Queen moves around like I imagine Glinda would. I know Glinda doesn't, but kind of how she would with her hands up and she's like floating around. But then it's funny because she's floating in front of her people and as soon as they're gone, she runs. That was funny. The Cheshire Cat has an insane amount of power. He could use it and be a great tool for them, great team member. And eventually he does when he saves the Mad Hatter, which was very clever. He pretended to be the Mad Hatter and stood in his place, kept the hat on, which was smart because then people wouldn't notice. I mean, he looked like him anyway, I think. I don't know. And you just saw the cat eyes and you're like, oh, Cheshire Cat. Hey, buddy. And then he just whoosh, away. And then the Mad Hatter's still there. He just shows up. Also, the Queen is bad. We all know this. She's a little crazy. She's having people's heads cut off for no reason, like that frog guard earlier in the movie because he took one of her tarts because he was probably starving. Off with his head. That was sad. But everyone around her is lying to her all the time. I don't know why the White Queen got to be the queen instead of the Queen of Hearts, probably because the Queen of Hearts was crazy. It's sad. It's unfortunate, but it happened. But now, like, her henchmen, the main guy's lying to her about liking her and implied loving her, and everyone in her court is pretending to be something they're not. I can understand why, if otherwise she'd cut off your head, but that still kind of stinks for her. So that's what unfortunate. That was a tangent. That's okay. This whole thing's a tangent. The Hatter is a great father figure to his friends, to the Tweedles, to the Dormouse, and he's bringing Bayard's family to Bayard, and that was so cute because that was all Bayard was worried about was his family, and now they're safe. There was also a good quote from the White Queen. She says to Alice, obviously, Alice, you cannot live your life to please others. The choice must be yours. And you're like, ooh, good. How great. And then she says, because when you step out to face that creature, you will step out alone. That is a lot for Alice, who thought she was in a dream and is eventually realizes she's not. Like, hey, you're here doing this thing. Gotta do it by yourself. Good luck. But also, like, Alice has been kind of living her whole life by herself, trying to connect with people, but living by herself, like, in her own little world since her dad died. So that's nice validation, almost, from the White Queen for what Alice is doing. And a good encouragement, like, don't marry Hamish when you go back. Hamish. Not Hamish. We're going to fix that part. Don't marry Hamish when you go back. Don't do it. And then in the White Queen's court, a bunch of pale people are staring at Alice again, similar to when Hamish proposed to her, and they're just all looking at her, and he proposed in a gazebo. But now Alice runs away from those people to a gazebo to think. I want to see live action original Alice. So, like, we all know animated Alice in Wonderland. And then there's this Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, the first one, and then the second one. But you kind of figure out from this first Tim Burton movie that they're taking the animated one and it's the first one. So when Alice came, that was all real. She thought it was a dream. But that was real. So when she's dreaming it, those are memories. So that's actually the first one. Tim Burton's is the second one, and then his second one is the third one. I want to see the animated one in live action. I think that would be really fun. And they already had a little girl actor. I mean, now that was like 10 years ago. So they'd have to find a new one because she's grown up. But it was cool. So I want to see that. Then Absalom, caterpillar guy, has a fun little quote. He says, "Remember, the Vorpal sword wants what it wants. All you have to do is to hold on to it." I thought that was a fun quote because it's like a destiny thing. Like, this is your life. This is what's happening. Just go with it. Weird because it's like a choice, but also not. I don't know. I thought it was a cool quote. And then we get to the battle. The White Queen and the Queen of Hearts have their people come. Queen of Hearts has all these playing cards, as we know. The White Queen's knights are like chess pieces. So that was cool because she is a whole different game than the Queen. She has complicated but consistent rules. And there's a way to play with chess pieces. Like, this is the set game. There's cards. You can play what you want. You can play a bunch of different games. That was cool. A fun little comparison between them. But they're meeting on a giant chessboard. So it is clearly the White Queen's game. Then we see the dragon god, the Jabberwocky. And you're like, oh, he's scary. I did not like his voice. I know he's supposed to be a bad guy, but I didn't really feel like the voice went with the dragon, Jabberwocky. So I thought that would have been better if he'd had a different voice. But then Alice chops off his tongue. So then we don't hear him talk anymore. Oh well. I think that this fight would have gone better for Alice, at least at the beginning, if she'd had some training. Like, even just minimal, this is how you swing a sword, this is what's happening. But she... And then the Jabberwocky throws Alice in the air, and when she comes down, she chops off its head. So it helped her kill it. That was sad. I mean, like, it's a bad guy, so... But it helped her. It contributed to its own death. And then the Queen's card guys are like, nope, you lost. We don't work for you anymore. So I'm glad that they followed the law of the battle. It's really sad that she doesn't have anyone who's loyal to her. Like, no friends in the world. She could, but she chose not to. That's unfortunate, but that's where she's at. And then the magic crown like flies off of the Queen of Hearts' head and moves to the White Queen, but it's not actually magic. It's the Cheshire Cat. Still kind of magic, but I was excited about a magic crown that just jumped to the ruler. I had the captions on for this movie because I couldn't understand some of the things that the Mad Hatter said, and then I just left them on for the rest of the movie. And it says when the Mad Hatter starts dancing, it says, flutterwhacking music. Like, that is common music that we all listen to, of course. Then Alice gets back to the real world. She's sad about leaving her friends, but she'll remember them. And I think that maybe Alice should tell her sister that her husband is cheating on her, or at least like maybe tell her mom and then let her mom handle that whole situation tactfully, because I think Alice's sister deserves better than that. And then, okay, so earlier I was like, I don't know who the caterpillar is. I think that the caterpillar, Absalom, is Hamish's dad. That is my hypothesis. It could be very wrong, but that is what I think. Because after Alice says no to Hamish's proposal, which was a good call, he's like, well, now that you're not going to be my daughter-in-law, want to be my apprentice? A great plan. So to China she goes. Earlier when Alice met Absalom, he wasn't very nice. They were like, is this Alice? And he was like, not hardly. A little bit rude and unclear. Just like Absalom's view of Alice changed and grew, Hamish's dad's view of Alice also changed and grew. So at first he viewed Alice as someone for his son to marry and his old business partner's daughter. So he's like, yeah, she's there. Kind of like Absalom's, not hardly. And then she becomes Alice. So she says no to Hamish. a great call. And she is being herself, and she fights the Jabberwocky. She becomes Alice in Wonderland, Underland, whatever. So that was fun. I liked that. And then Absalom got the last word in the movie as a butterfly. There are over 9 minutes of credits at the end. I did not watch those. That's just long. But the movie's 9 minutes shorter than it says it is, so that's cool. Daniel gave this movie an 8 with no comments. I said it's an hour and 40 minutes plus 9 minutes of credits, but it doesn't feel like it's dragging on. So this is the first movie that I didn't feel like it was too long. Yay! There's a purpose, and we're leading to it through the story. It's still moving. You're building, but you're not just like, we're hanging out. Stuff was happening. I liked that. I gave the plot a 9. I gave the plot a 9 and the characters an 8. Overall, an 8.5. Kind of averaging them. Also, I just think it's good. I don't love the characters because they're written to be frustrating and kind of crazy, and that's not exactly my thing, even though I love Alice in Wonderland. I'll just do. They're written to be frustrating, but they serve purposes well and add to the story. And I really like Alice and the White Queen. And I really like how Johnny Depp plays the Mad Hatter. He isn't crazy. Like the Dormouse and the March Hare, kind of out there. Though the Dormouse does some good by like taking the Bandersnatch's eye so that Alice can give it back later and get him on their side. So anyway, lots of characters, lots of things. I like it. 8.5. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.